Hello and welcome to the Comic Book Communicast, the official podcast of the Google Plus comic book community. Every episode, each of us chooses our favorite comic of the week to talk about, and then we'll discuss any significant comic-related news and TV from the week. And just a reminder, you can find all of our episodes at comicbookcommunicast.com, as well as links for the podcast on YouTube, iTunes, and RSS. August 23rd, 2015. I'm Justin Beeson, and I'm joined by co-host Paul Christopher.
Good evening, everybody.
All right, let's get right into it. Pick of the week, where each of us chooses our favorite comic, and then we'll briefly go over the rest of the books we picked up for the week. So, Paul, what was your pick for the week?
All right, my pick for this week was Revival number 32, written by Tim Seeley and art by Mike Norton. You guys, anybody who's been following the Communicast knows that this is one of my favorite comics. If you're new to the Communicast and new to the comic, it's basically, the plot is that there's this little town in Minnesota, I want to say, or Wisconsin, where the dead come back to life. And now they've been quarantined, and it's a lot of intimate stories. It's all about people's relationships and whatnot. Not a lot of big action sets and stuff like that. But if you like character pieces, this is the book for you. It's really, really well done. So this issue brings us back to the core characters, which are these two sisters who are the main characters of the book. And at the very beginning, we find out that the youngest sister is what they call a reviver. And their father doesn't know. And the older sister, Dana, is a police officer in the town and has vowed to find out who killed her younger sister. And things have come to a head for the last 32 issues. And in this issue, they basically have a fight. And we see a lot of their past together. And we find out that Dana was not actually the best big sister that she could be. And there's a lot of issues there. So, this comic, when it comes to reviewing it, it's very hard because unless there's a big game-changing event, there's not really a whole lot to talk about. But that doesn't mean it's a bad comic. It just means it's a character piece, like I said. So there's not a lot of there's this awesome action scene here, and this they're trying to save the world from this, that sort of thing. But it's a really good book. I've been enjoying it, and even though there aren't big action scenes and whatnot, it still keeps me coming back every issue.
Cool. Yeah, it's like one of those Saga or Batman where it's just really good from week to week, but it's hard to.
Yeah, exactly.
There's only so many times you can say, "Oh, it's really good. It's really good."
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. So my pick, which we've been gone for a while. It's because I've been moving. As you can see, I finally got my computer room set up. So I didn't have a whole bunch of time to read comics, so I just kind of went with it, and I did Rat Queens number 11. So this is the first issue back after a break. Stepyon Sejic, however you say his name, our favorite artist here, is no longer on the book because he had some health issues. So instead of delaying it further, he just passed off the book. So the new artists are Tess Fowler and Tamara Bonvillain, and they are the same team that did the Braga one shot, I believe. That was the one after Rock Up Church left. And while not as great as Sejic, it's still, the art is still really good. The panels and layouts are not quite as interesting, but the facial expressions, the action are all really good. So this issue, there's kind of a little bit of a time jump. I actually don't even remember what happened at the end of the last arc. They fought some really big tentacle monster or something. So this one starts out with just some random guy named Gerard, and he's talking to a council of elders, it looks like, and you find out it's for a university, and he's asking them to change their ways because they're doing some corrupt stuff, and they say no. And so he attacks them with a bunch of people, and there's a big magic battle. And then cuts to the Rat Queens, who are now are captured. They're in a cage in some goblin den, and so they fight their way out. And then you find out in this process that the guy who was rebelling against the council was Hannah, who's the mage. That's her father, and they're going to that university town to find out what happened. Um, so there's not a whole lot. I mean, there kind of was a lot of plot. That's all happened, established it, and so it looks like we're going to focus on Hannah this arc and find out where she's from and like her brings up. But the whole point of this comic is always the kind of character work and the back and forth between them, and it's still amazing. Betty the Halfling is still the best part about the book. All her lines are just completely hilarious. Um, and even with all the delays, the artist changes, this is still one of the best books coming out right now, and you should definitely be reading it. Especially, it's definitely an adult book, but it's kind of got the sword and sorcery fantasy stuff, but it's really funny. So yeah, definitely check it out. Have you read any of these yet, Paul?
I have not. Have not,
Yeah,
but I keep hearing good
like
things. And like, isn't there like a TV show or a movie coming?
cartoon, I think,
Oh, okay, yeah.
like an adult cartoon, but I don't think they said um, what it's going to be on or where it's going to be released yet.
Mhm.
So what other books did you pull this week?
Let's see. So I gotta say, speaking of books, is the ComiXology has this new. They've updated their app, and they've got this really cool layout. So I don't know if you can see it, but basically you can scroll through it just by like the cover,
Oh,
which is really cool. And then if you turn it on the side, it's very helpful for us. Like when you're trying to so you turn it on the side, and then there's the credits over here.
oh, that's neat.
So when I'm like, yeah, so when instead of having to like look through the book, like where's the credits page, it's right there. And then sometimes that this handwriting is screwy, you can't read what it's supposed to be. So this is really cool. I like this update. But yeah,
I like all the like smart lists and stuff that they added in too.
yeah, they're really doing a good job. It's like it's getting to the point where unless yeah, it pays to be digital because we don't get those half page ads like people who are buying the Dead Tree version.
Very true.
So I got Trees number 12, Revival number 32, Velvet 11. Holy crap, Velvet is so good. It is so freaking good. It's so good. They need to make a movie out of this or a TV show. Like HBO, get a hold of it. It would be so awesome if they did a good job. Saw Man from Uncle. It put me right back in the mood for more Velvet, and there it was. Really worked out well. The only problem is I don't know because it just says by month, and I've got like 3 weeks worth of stuff here. I'm not sure which week is which, so I think that was it.
Okay.
For this week.
Cool. So my books I pulled Astro City number 26, Blacklist number 2. The first one was all right. I'll see how the second issue goes. It's kind of hard, like because the main pull of that show is James Spader, and it doesn't translate as well to the book itself. So we'll see. Hex number 12. I guess this is the conclusion to this maxi series. It's an awesome book from Boom. I've talked about it a couple times. House of M number 1, another Secret Wars tie-in. I loved the original event, so we'll see how that is. Injustice Gods Among Us number 8. Invader Zim number 2. Looking forward to reading that. Justice League number 43. Have you caught up on this yet?
What?
Justice League.
No. I do. Go back. Yeah, I do. I need to because I've heard good things.
Yeah, it's out of continuity, it seems like. So yeah. Batman is still Batman. Superman is still Superman. So it's kind of interesting. And I think Hal Jordan's still in there too. Postal number 6, which is probably my favorite book in the past year. Star Wars number 8. Star Wars Kanan Last Padawan number 5. Ninja Turtles number 49. And that's it. So those are my books. Kind of a big week. But yeah, you should definitely check out Justice League.
Yeah, I want to check that, and I also want to pick up Postal before it gets too far away from me. Like 6 issues, it's doable.
Yes, definitely check that out. It's amazing. I love it. So you can post and discuss your own books in the weekly CBC Pollbox post using hashtag CBC Pollbox in the community. So just post what books you picked up, and then come back and we discuss what you thought of them, and it's a good place to find some new recommendations. And starting next week, we're starting to have some more content in the CBC. We're getting hooked up with the publishers, so we'll be having like advanced solicits and more detailed posts on there coming up. So next we have the issue of the week, where we choose a news story, TV episode, or comic issue, or anything else that stood out to us this week. So Paul, what was your issue?
My issue is the return of John Constantine, if only for one episode. But I'm hoping that they do this as like a sort of like a backdoor second pilot, because that would just be amazing. I mean, the Constantine show was great, but so back to the issue. Constantine is coming over and showing up in an episode of Arrow, which will be the first episode of Arrow that I actually watch. And but he's coming in with like the full continuity from the TV show and whatnot. And so the possibility is there, if the fan reaction is big enough, for them to maybe go ahead and pull out a Constantine series, continue it over at CW, which would make far more sense than NBC anyway. First of all, CW doesn't need the same kind of numbers to keep a show around as NBC does. Second of all, they've already got, like, that's basically the home of DC on television right now, with the exception of Supergirl and Gotham. And they're building their own little universe over there, which it makes sense for DC to keep them all in universe. Don't get me started. But anyway, so fingers crossed that this will turn into something bigger. But either way, just getting another chance to see Constantine is a big deal for me. So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, cool. I'm excited for that too. I mean, I'm a regular Arrow watcher, and I watched all the Constantine, so that's exciting. And I guess he could show up on that Legends of Tomorrow show too.
Well, apparently he sets his appearance in Arrow sets that up, or at least has a major effect on Legends of Tomorrow.
So Black Canary was Sarah Lance instead of Laurel Lance originally, and she died. And so I guess, and then they announced Legends of Tomorrow, and it was going to have Sarah Lance as White Canary.
Yeah.
So his role in Arrow is going to be to bring her back somehow.
Yeah. I'm guessing there's going to be was it Resurrection Pit? Yeah. And Lazarus Pit involved. I'm guessing, because they've already had Ra's al Ghul on the show.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm excited for that. So my issue today is that I took my fiance Angie to my new comic shop, and it kind of re-illustrated still the problems we have with basically inviting women into comics and the comic culture.
Oh no.
Because you walk into the shop and you still have basically all these TNA books everywhere and mixed in with everything else, and it's just still really off-putting. And me, as a male, like I guess I don't notice it as much still, because you play it off like, oh, that's just comics, that's just there. But to someone who's new to comics and coming from a different perspective, it's pretty offensive. And she was pretty uncomfortable going in there with me.
Yeah, I think it's we don't notice it as much as guys, because it's marketed to us, so it becomes almost invisible to us at this point. It's when you run into somebody who, like when I was in Japan, right? I'm running around there every time we go into a manga shop or something like that. There's all these like prepubescent girls running around. Like, what the hell? But like, the average Japanese person walks in there, they don't even see that. They don't even notice it. So I think that's what it is with us. Is we have to become more sensitive, and walking in there with, your wife, your girlfriend, your daughter, sensitizes you to that. And I think that that's just what we need more of. And we're going in that direction anyway. I really feel like the tide is really starting to change. I mean, you see like the big two are covering up their superheroines. We've got Wonder Woman's new outfit. is like she's fully covered head to toe now. So it's like, like Spider Gwen, her outfit from the beginning has always been like full coverage and whatnot. So I think we're gonna start seeing less of that because there's just gonna be less that exists. I mean, we'll always have Vampirella. I don't think they'll ever cover her up, but yeah.
That was one of the books.
Yeah.
Was Vampirella. But I mean, it's it's not even about covering up. Like, it just has to be, not ridiculous. So like there's a cover for The Wicked and the Divine number 13, which has I think Tara on the front of it in like a costume that's pretty like sparse, but it's not ridiculous, and it's about being tasteful and not over the top and not completely unrealistic.
Yeah. It's like, exaggerated.
Yeah, and the other thing is like, then what do you do? Because people obviously still buy this stuff.
Yep. And they have the right to do so.
Right. Do you put it like, but then, how much business, so you're selling this stuff, but how much business are you losing with potential new customers?
Exactly. And the people who are going to buy that stuff will find it if you put it like on a shelf elsewhere in the thing. So you're not having it like cover out, you have it cover in, when you put a sign like, here is your Vampirella books, so people who want those will go and find them. But like you said, like if I walk in with, my daughter, it's not going to be the first thing that she sees, and when you walk in with your fiance, it's not going to be the first thing that she sees. And for people who really want that title, more power to them. They'll say, hey, I'm here to get a Vampirella comic. Where are they? And they'll say, oh, it's over there on the shelf. And there you go.
Yeah, I agree. Like, give it its own little section, maybe in the back or off to the side, somewhere where, the people who want it can go find it. But yeah, there should be other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to necessarily be hidden like porn. I mean, like you should definitely, like if you have porn comics, but what it is just doesn't need to be cover out. You don't need to have like the giant like 6 foot cutouts and stuff like that. Like the stuff that you want facing your customer should A, be appropriate for all ages, and B, be not acceptable, but like welcoming to all shapes and sizes. So that yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yep, I completely agree. So like I said, I've been super busy, so I didn't get a chance to like compile a big list. So do you have any news that happened in the past week or so that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, so we mentioned the whole DCU thing when we were talking earlier, but I don't have I couldn't find the article, and I didn't have a chance to like read it, excuse me, when I first saw it, so I can't speak to it fully. But apparently, long and short of it is like they're not seeing the kind of sales result that they were looking for from the DCU launch. It's been kind of flat, which makes sense to me. Like I understand where they were going with this idea of like, there's something for everybody, but breaking up the universe is like there's no continuity really. It's like there's just all this like little pockets, these little bubbles everywhere, instead of having like one fully realized continuous universe. Like they can do what they wanted to do with this whole DCU thing without blowing up the universe, basically is what they did. So like all these titles exist on their own. So like they already had they've got Justice League, Gods and Monsters, Injustice. They've got Injustice, exists all by itself. They've got that one, like the anime one with the girls like Wonder Woman. No, well that too though. But
Girls.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that one. They had that. That was perfectly fine. That was existing on its own. Back in the day, they used to have like a younger readers versions, like like based on like the animated series and whatnot. So like those were all on their own. So you just do it like that. You know, it was like the anime girls ones was not affecting the sales of the regular one, but you can do whatever you want with them. Suddenly they're completely out of continuity. You can do whatever you want. You can aim them. You can target them at a specific, demographic without destroying the main thing. Which, so I think that is probably the way they should have gone. Not because, like, they could have done, Batgirl and Supergirl, the way they want, where it's like targeted at younger female readers and not lost me on the main book. They could have had like a separate Batgirl and Supergirl book and kept the main books the way that they were going. And then so they would have had me and they would have had the new audience, but nobody listens to me.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see how they turn it around, because DC is definitely very reactionary. So
Yeah,
they'll turn. I mean, once that Batgirl relaunch, caught on, they're like, oh, let's do that to all the books. So,
yep. Coming next year, Revergence.
Yeah.
The new Revergence 52.
Yeah, so I actually just browsed like the news stuff, and there wasn't a whole lot. But the one thing I wanted to ask you about is you actually went and saw Fantastic Four. And I know
Oh, God help me.
Had their chance to bag on it or whatever, but I wanted to hear your take, because you're generally pretty forgiving of superhero movies.
Yeah, this was so bad. It was so bad. I mean, it was just. I felt like I was being punished for something. I don't know. I think what it is. This is what this is my theory. Okay, so the Marvel movies have continuously been so good, right? And in my own opinion, the DC movies, like the last Batman trilogy, and I actually like Man of Steel. I understand the upset about it, but I liked it. So we had these movies that have been so good. We had to have this one to balance, we had to this is the yin to the yang here, otherwise it's just the quality was imbalanced. So the universe had to straighten it out by giving us this black hole of a comic book movie that just sucked in everything that was good. It's just the equivalent badness all in one movie of all of these good movies. Because when you look back on the original Fox Fantastic Four movies and go, you know what, that wasn't so bad, in comparison, there's a problem. So here's my thing. It's like one of the things, whenever you have a movie with family in it, I start watching that very closely. That's one of my markers for how well the movie is doing, if they portray family well. And so we've got the Storms, and they don't hug each other through the entire movie. Freaking the siblings, Sue and Johnny. Johnny, the first time Sue sees Johnny in the movie, he's just been in a car accident. She doesn't even leave her seat. I'm like, that's not realistic. That is not realistic. Your brother has just been in a car accident. You're freaking out. You're going to run up like, oh my gosh, how are you? Are you okay? What were you thinking? Are you out of your mind? I never once believed that these two grew up together. Not for a second. And they just, the guy playing the dad, he actually was overall, he was really good. I feel like, he's reacting like in a dad kind of way. But the Johnny and Sue are just no. And then Reed, no. And then Dr. Doom. And Sue didn't even get to go. She didn't even get to go to the negative zone. Sorry, Planet Zero. I thought the negative zone worked just fine. I don't know why they felt like that. No, we can't call it the negative zone. That's too ridiculous. We have to call it Planet Zero. That's just dumb. Yeah. And let's not even talk about the plot holes of them being able to communicate through this dimensions. They're not even in the same dimension, but yet their radios work. But we'll leave that alone. It's just it was so bad. And then you can tell that there were cuts and stuff that were made because there were scenes in the trailers that did not show up in the movie. And so now that like there's articles that have been coming out since the movie came out, like because trying to figure out what happened, and apparently there's just a lot of fighting back and forth between the studio and the director, and this is the result. So like there's that scene where you see Ben dropping from the plane, and oh, hold on a second. Before we get to Ben dropping from the plane, or on a related note, I have not read the Fantastic Four comics, but I'd be willing to bet a large amount of money that at no point in any of the comics did Ben Grimm go and kill a bunch of people for the government. Yes.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah, no, I just don't. I don't see him killing people in any way. I mean, like that's just not a Fantastic Four Marvel kind of thing to do. So yeah, so the whole scene where he like drops out of the plane and all that, which looked really cool, not in the movie. Not in the movie. There's a whole description on I think IO9, like put together a bunch of like reports from different people on the set and whatnot. Or no, it's Entertainment Weekly, and they basically reconstructed what the scene was supposed to be like, and it sounded pretty cool. But no, they decided not to put that in there. So it's supposed to come between when Reed leaves, and then like there's a part where they're looking at that scene on screens, like the military people are. It's just a couple articles that I've read about it have said something that makes sense to me now. Is like basically this movie feels guilty for being a comic book movie. It wants so desperately to not be a comic book movie, and it just shows that.
That's Fox's kind of whole MO with all of their comic book movies up until Deadpool, really.
Yeah, yeah. I think Deadpool's
The
gonna be the
newer
first
X-Men
one to
movies
do it.
kind of embrace it, but
Yeah, I'm hoping that they can pull the X-Men back into something decent, but I mean, like it's so just all over the place now. So we'll see what happens with Apocalypse. The last one was okay. It was decent. I like the fact that the new X-Men movie we've got Storm with her mohawk.
yeah,
So I'm looking forward to that. We'll see how that goes. But what it is you know Fox needs to make a deal like Sony made the deal, because the problem with Fox is they don't have anybody on these movies who love these characters, and know these characters. And yeah, they're just looking for like the popular stuff, and they're just throwing it out there. They don't really understand these characters. They don't love these characters. They don't know the history. They're not fans. They just want to make money, and it's the results are clear on the screen. So
yeah, there should be some sort of like baseball rule: 3 strikes and you're out. They're over
yeah,
with these Fantastic Four movies.
yeah, they just give it up.
Well, and we know that somebody can make a good family superhero movie because if you look at The Incredibles
Yeah.
by Pixar, Brad Bird and Pixar,
Mhm.
that is an amazing superhero comic book movie, and it basically could be the Fantastic Four.
Well, I mean, that's what everybody says. Like, if you want to see a good Fantastic Four movie, go watch The Incredibles. It's already been made.
So
The best
it's been
Fantastic
done.
Four movie has
Somebody
been
can do it.
made. Yeah.
Yeah. So somebody can do it. So it is possible.
Yep.
So hopefully some. I mean, and I think they're already a sequel's already in the works. So
Well, no. They were originally, yeah. I don't know if it's in the works, but they announced the sequel before the movie was even out. So now they're still saying like, oh yeah, we stand behind these characters, but like, I think they're probably gonna wait till everyone's like forgotten them. Like, oh yeah, I don't know what you mean about a sequel. Like, what are you talking about? What X-Men crossover? What? At no point did we. No.
yeah. So I found one bit of news that I did want to talk about, and that's the rumors that George Miller may direct um, the next Justice League movie after Batman v Super. Oh no, sorry, Man of Steel 2,
Yeah.
which is pretty interesting because if anybody knows, George Miller was originally tapped to direct uh, Justice League with like Army Hammer and the guy from the OC and a bunch of other people. And between like kind of, I think studio interruption and the writer's strike, it got scrapped. and they had already had everything cast. Adam Brody was his name, and they had gone to Australia to start filming. Like they were there, and then it got canceled and fell apart. So now, post Mad Max, DC is interested in George Miller directing again. So that could be interesting. I mean, I'd rather see pretty much anybody than Zack Snyder at this point direct one of these movies. So I will definitely be looking forward to it a lot more now that George Miller is on board.
Yeah, look, I love Mad Max. It was ridiculous. So yeah, I'm down to see George Miller's take on it, and that's one thing that hopefully DC will take from Marvel's lead, which is getting new and interesting directors to come in and do your movies for you.
Yeah.
You know, and give them the room to do it too.
Yeah, agreed. So any other news items?
No, that's all I can think of.
Okay. So a last bit. So I have another news item, but this is more like a community news. So we are now starting to be like, almost like an official comic book site. So we're getting in touch with publishers. So we'll be getting um, advanced review copies and stuff like that. So you'll start to see that trickling out. Also, we're going to start putting out like a real comic review team. So if anybody's watching,
Wait, what does that make us?
what was that?
You think
No,
we're
no,
gonna
I
have a
mean like
real comic review?
well, yeah, like so like an official one to where we get like promo copies
Yeah,
and advanced looks at stuff. Um, so and we're going to start doing written reviews
yeah.
as well as continuing to do our podcast reviews, video cast reviews. So yeah, those will start trickling in. First one, I'm going to be doing Ninjak #6, which comes out next week. So look for that written review. I guess probably sometime in the next couple days before Wednesday. And we're still kind of figuring out what to do with all of it. So we'll probably try and integrate it in here some way too. But yeah, like I said, it's just starting. So in the works, and we'll start looking forward to more of that stuff. So
Very
at the end of the
excited about
show,
that.
oh, go ahead. What was that, Paul?
I'm very excited. I'm very excited to get sneak peeks and new stuff.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's starting to come in, and it's looking to be some good content there. Um, right now, we have I think this like we have like Dynamite and Valiant and Dark Horse and Alterna. I think Marvel we just got into contact with Marvel, and then so obviously we're looking for DC and Image next,
Mm-hmm.
and so those should be in the works. So at the end of the show, we are more than our. Oh no, never mind. We got to do our discussion topic, the CB Just for Fun, where we pull a
Yeah.
discussion topic from Joe Sokolowski's daily topics that can be found with the CBC Just for Fun hashtag or under the CBC features section in the community. And this week's topic was where's the thing? Okay. Oh, what's your favorite Batman villain created in the last 30 years? So, Paul, did you have one?
Oh, created in the last 30 years.
Misread.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll go first then.
Yeah, you go first.
Mine has to be The Court of Owls, which was
Oh, yeah.
Scott Snyder's opening arc with the New 52. It was just a really creative take on Gotham City in general and kind of turning it on its head and giving Batman and Bruce Wayne a villain that you really thought like there was some stakes there. And, for once, I felt like reading through it, you weren't for sure the Batman was going to win, even if, obviously he asked you to continue the comic, but it felt like there were real stakes there. And so that to me was probably the most interesting villain in recent history to come up.
Yeah, I agree. That whole first arc was like straight up like downright kind of spooky. You know, you find it's like you're like your eyes are being opened for the first time. You know, realize that these people have been behind the scenes for hundreds of years. This goes back, and the only problem was once again they take too much of a good thing. Like these talons that they have are just badass and they're awesome until you see them all the time, until you turn one of them into a freaking hero with his own freaking book. And it's like, no, no, I'm not scared anymore. They're not scary anymore. You know, you keep beating them and all this stuff is like, it's not scary anymore. They're not. No, 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 no. Left it
So
alone.
for some more examples, Joe's question was actually top three. So his were Harley Quinn, um, which she was created for the TV show, and that was in 1993. Hush, and then Ventriloquist and Scarface, which I didn't realize because that was in 1988. I didn't
Yeah.
realize that was this recent. They're really fun too, and they're great in the old animated series.
Hush was cool originally, but then and once again they've just gone too far with him, you know. And then like he was just the behind the whole Batman Eternal thing, and this idea of like, is he Bruce Wayne's brother or not? It's like, no,
Yeah,
no.
I remember reading it for the first time and thinking, "Oh, this is awesome," but I actually reread Hush like a couple years ago, and it wasn't great.
Yeah,
Going back through it again, not that
they need
engaging.
to bring back Hugo Strange. I'd like to see somebody work with him. I think you know, Snyder and Capullo could do a really good Hugo Strange story.
Which
Um,
it's sure seeming like they're going to be. They keep saying, "Oh, we're exploring options or whatever," but I think they're going to be done after issue number 50,
yeah,
which is coming up, or at least Capullo's going to be done. Um, but it's sounding like Snyder might jump off too.
yeah,
I want to see. He's been talking about how he has a Wonder Woman story. I want to see that.
yep.
Plus, get the Finches off Wonder Woman because it's not good.
If not, then he'll
Oh
just have to go and do it with Image. You know, create
yeah.
a Wonder Woman stand-in and just do it that way.
Well, I mean, now with the whole DCU thing, you can just give him a separate book.
Yep.
Doesn't actually have to be in continuity or anything. So that's a possibility as well. So, okay, now the end of the show, we are more than a weekly comic, so we like to talk about the other things that we've been consuming over the last week. So, Paul, do you have anything else that you've been taking in besides your weekly comics?
Yes, I have been consumed by. Not taking it. Sorry. Here we go. The Last First Snow by Max Gladstone. And this is the latest book from the Craft sequence. I've been talking about this for a little bit now. It's just an incredible series. This is only like the fourth book. He's like a new writer on the scene. And if you like fantasy, this is just unlike anything that you've read, anything that exists in fantasy right now. Um, it's like urban fantasy, but also high fantasy at the same time. You know, I've talked about it before, but it's so good, and his books are addicting, and his writing is like very smooth. I don't know how to explain it. It's a very quick, fast read, but it's not like it's like superficial. You know what I mean? It draws you in, and you just have to keep turning pages. So it's a fantastic book, fantastic series, and if you like fantasy, you should definitely be checking it out.
Cool. Yeah, it's. I think I've said this before, but it's on my queue.
Yep,
So
you'll get to
I'll
it
get to
eventually, and then
it.
you'll ask yourself like, why didn't I do this sooner?
Yep. So for me, Angie and I just watched True Story because Chromecast is giving out like free rentals. If you have a Chromecast, you check for offers and you can get a free rental. True Story was with James Franco and Jonah Hill. It kind of got pretty bad reviews, so I think it was in theaters and then out right after. It follows um, basically a guy who killed his whole family and then fled to Mexico and then used a journalist's name while he was there and then gets caught. And so it's kind of the story of the killer and the journalist, their relationship with each other, because the journalist then writes a book about him. And then so it's about that and then kind of a little bit of a courtroom drama. Just a pretty interesting story. And I don't know why it got such terrible reviews. It wasn't the best movie ever, but it was definitely entertaining and worth watching. So I would recommend checking it out. And it's it's another movie where Jonah Hill shows his serious side, which he's actually pretty good. So yeah, I would recommend at least renting it or wait till it shows up on HBO or whatever and check it out.
Yeah, I don't normally mess with like video, like straight to video stuff, because it's so rare that you pull a gem out of that. Usually, there's a reason why it went straight to video.
Well, this was in theater at least for a little while.
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, it was real quick and it didn't make a big splash.
Did it come out at the same time as what do you call it? The that one with in Korea. What was that one called?
Oh, The Interview.
Yeah, The Interview. Yeah, that's another one of their movies that didn't last long.
Yeah, no, that was.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one's worth checking out though.
Cool.
So I think that about does it.
Yep.
All right. You can find links to all of our episodes on comicbookcommunicast.com. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/comicbookcommunicast. Our audio version is on iTunes and RSS, so you can subscribe and rate us there as well. If you want to watch live, we usually record every Sunday at about 8 p.m. Eastern, which will be more regular now. I know we've said this a lot, but I'm moved in, have my computer set up, so we should be good. Yeah, so Sundays, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. So join us here next week. Thank you and have a good night.
Have a good night, everybody.